Friends, hello, happy Monday, and welcome to another edition of The Mind Behind. I'm very happy, to be quite honest with you, that my conscious thought into not calling today Tuesday, our regularly scheduled Mind Behind programming, took effect, and I'm glad that I am joined by, again, one of pro wrestling's greatest content creators, journalists, whatever box you choose to put us in, this guy is the finest of them, and I can guarantee that. Alex McCarthy of talkSPORT joining me, a friend that I am glad to have, on the social media end, because frankly, man, the signal boost is always appreciated, but someone who I am very, very excited to have on today, because again, friends, if you're looking for great, and it's a weird way to put it, but like ethical people in professional wrestling journalism, again, the man right there is one of those, a fellow I am glad to have here, but man, I could sing your praises for quite literally the half hour we've got before Monday Night Raw. I might as well ask how you're doing, how are things, and welcome, of course, to Love Wrestling.
Well, thank you, first and foremost, for having me. Number one, you're more than deserving of the signal boost, man. Like I said, I admired you for a while when you were sending me through your work. Like I see the things that maybe not everyone else sees. You know what I mean? You're out there grinding, sending the transcripts, doing all the right things. And I was like, man, this guy deserves a little bit of love. Because there's enough of them out there who are like, oh, I heard. And I like the people that are actually boots on the ground doing the good stuff. And yeah, you absolutely have been. Second of all, man, I was just being seduced by your intro guitar riff.
You don't have to thank me that, man. Like, I quite literally, and I've been saying it to most people, honestly, who have been hopping on here, but I'll send you the Fiverr link to the individual who's done all of our theme music, because, like, you know, Jim Johnson's definitely number one on the wish list, but I think the guy I've got on Fiverr is a solid 1A.
I mean, he's on the podium. He has to be.
That's exactly it. And when you're going amongst millions, it's got to be something good to stand at the top of it. And like I said, man, and it ain't just brown nosing on my end. You're an individual who, in journalism, in content creation, again, I joke, in like the box people choose to put professional wrestling content creators in, you're one of the top, whether it's breaking news, whether it's interviewing some of professional wrestling top stars, like you're one of those guys that is, again, constantly popping on the timeline. So you've talked about professional wrestling, your origins with it, watching it with your gran, as far as all of that sort of stuff goes. But as far as content creation goes, was professional wrestling your first step in? Was it your first step even into journalism? Or how did you get started writing following graduation?
I knew you'd do your fucking research. I knew it.
God forbid a journalist does their research, eh?
So yeah, as the story goes, like that was my childhood, really, like where my gran and myself really bonded over wrestling and mostly The Rock. And you know, I didn't ever really think that it was a career path at all. Who does, right? Like, you know, most of us think that that's not possible, and certainly I didn't even know who like Dave Meltzer was when I was a teenager. Just shooting straight. Like, I know there was a lot of people on forums, and you know, but I didn't know anything about that. So I was.
Well, and like, sorry to interrupt, but like, did a lot of that come out of the growing up in the UK scene? Like, we're very lucky in North America, and like you mentioned with Meltzer, with the guys like after growing up, like it was a very North American centric sports journalism, to throw a lot of phrases in that word salad, but like. At least as far as the UK goes, man, like you, Gary, Louie, you guys are really the first experience, I guess, I've had with UK journalism. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Can I just say, I've got my fan on close. Are you hearing this?
No, we're good to go. If the fans complain, dude, trust me, it's always for me.
Yes, I mean, you're right, because that was the main thing. Like, obviously, I got to know, like, you know, you mentioned it right there, Meltzer, Apter, Mike Johnson. As I got back into wrestling the second time. So I kind of stopped watching. This is how much I sound so now I'm like a professional. I hate being so marky, but I am. And so when
we all are, don't worry.
So when The Rock left, I was like, fuck this. Like, I've had enough. Like, I hated Lesnar. Lesnar come in. Goldberg's come in. I mean, I've never stopped hating Goldberg. But Goldberg came in, squashed him. I was like, this is fuck. No, I don't want this.
Throwing the proverbial Monopoly board and walking away.
Yeah, I was like, nah, this ain't for me. And also at the time, so I think that's about 2004-ish. That's when Rock obviously has his last Mania before going away. And I am 16, right? So it's kind of like ripe for my light is just playing up. Stop it. So 16 is that kind of age, right, where you're starting to grow out into other stuff, and football was like kind of dominating my life. You know, I played quite a good level here in England. I ended up playing sort of 2 divisions below what is full time football. So I was earning money and playing quite high, and you kind of hope you're going to make it, right? Obviously, I didn't make it, but that was the first thought. I thought, okay, I'm going to play football. And then it was like, okay, well, I can't play football, so what am I going to do next? Write about sport, I guess. That would be the next best. And that was the main aim. I went to university with the idea of writing about football. And then it was all my own fault, man. I just didn't really get the experience I needed to at university while I was getting my degree. And thus, I was kind of on the scrap heap coming out of university. I was just doing cold calling, customer service, sales jobs, and I was like, I wasn't happy at all, man. But I never stopped writing. I kept writing my blogs. I wrote a fucking book for some reason, just a novel, fiction, whatever. Yeah. I just wrote to write, and eventually, my mum was like, "What are you doing?" I think I was 25. I'm 33 now. So I was 25 and mum said, you need to go back to college, get your NCTJ, which is like a qualification over here to work for national newspapers and stuff. You learn shorthand, law, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So I did that. And then while I was there this time around, I did get the experience and I did make myself go the extra mile. And then shortly after that, this makes it sound so simple, but I got into various different writing jobs and my missus got pregnant. And I was like, oh damn! Now I really better make it.
I was going to say now I've got to find one of those writing jobs, but one that pays well.
Yeah, exactly. Because I live just north of London, and obviously I'm aware that your English geography probably isn't amazing.
All I've heard though is that London is incredibly expensive, so I'd have to assume anywhere even slightly adjacent is adjacent expensive.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I guess New York is probably the equivalent where even a town that travels into it is expensive.
Even Toronto is the probably not equitable but almost equal Canadian comparison.
Yeah, I would say so. So when you're earning, I'm not going to talk finances, but at the time I was earning at that time 17, 19 grand. To get into London for that, Jesus.
You probably covered your bus and train pass.
It's not enough, man. And obviously, so I was at this job and I was writing. It was about poker.
Oh shit! Sorry to interrupt. Biteful. Thank you for the raid, friends. It is always appreciated. Look at this. You guys hopped in at a good time. 2 handsome gentlemen and 1 real journalist. Thank you for joining us. It is always appreciated. Alex has given us a little bit of a background into his start in career journalism and more specifically professional wrestling journalism. Thank you guys for hopping in. Alex, sorry to cut you off, friend. Continue on.
That is a very
get into
that is a
your
very
start
valid,
in journalism.
Very valid cutoff. No, but
I don't ever cut people off because let me tell you, man, I don't have a lot of good reasons to cut people off as the one non-journalist here, but I like to think I pick my spots well. Thank you guys very much. And Alex, apologies again. Continue, friend.
No apologies. I was writing about poker and then I was still writing on the side and they basically said, you don't want to be here, do you? And I was like, no, not really. And then so I didn't have a job. My missus was due in about 4 months. And I was like, man, this is rough. But then Give Me Sport, who I'd been freelancing for, said, do you want to be an NBA writer? And I liked the NBA, but I was by no means, watch.
You're happy to go to a game. It ain't your passion.
Well, I mean, I like it. But I mean, to be a reporter on it and make out as if I was in the know or, the deepest knowledge, I didn't. So I went and did that. And that led to me kind of branching out into more of the US sport for Give Me Sport, which is why still to this day I do boxing, UFC, because there isn't just a write about wrestling job. Those are hard to come by. So yeah, eventually.
Honestly, man, I got to interrupt here again, and I'll just pull the comment for you.
Fuck you, Jeremy. I know it's you.
Thankfully, the nice thing is we do have the report corroborated, or whichever word you want to throw out there. Tough. And then the Canadian Goose with not even a face turn, but a solid face move. You're good in my book, Alex. They hate you because they ain't you. But if you're talking about quality wrestling journalists, I'm happy to put you guys both at the number one, along with Gary on that end of things. Sorry to keep interrupting. All you, friend. I'll even give you the big screen so I shut up.
No, it's a don't need. You now I'm getting muted. It was just from there, and then I eventually did do WWE for Give Me Sport, and that's where it all started to take off, right? Like doing interviews, partnering up with 2K and people like that, and then eventually, to cut this very long story short, talkSPORT said, "We like what you do. We don't have anyone who does that. Do you want to come and do it for us?" And I was like, "Yeah." At this point, there was no like, "Do you want a radio show or anything?" It was just come and give us some of those clicks, man. That's the easiest way to put it. Everyone wants the clicks. And wrestling has a very defined audience that a lot of UK outlets have discovered. So, I'm not saying I'm a trailblazer or anything, but in the UK, we didn't really have many of us doing it. So I felt like it was really nice to be to be one of the first to kind of get the interviews and be able to break news, go to the shows and all of that stuff, make the connections, because there was never the platform to do so. And then because it did so well in year one of talkSPORT, the radio show was born. And man, I've been so lucky. It's a lot of timing and hard work and stuff, but I've been lucky and very grateful, man.
I actually had the conversation with someone earlier today. Is like everybody almost discounts the luck that goes into a lot of stuff, but like even Coca-Cola got lucky at some point. You know what I mean? Legendary Reborn hopping in. To be frank, Alex McCarthy is a reliable source and has good opinions on wrestling. Probably one of the best guys on Twitter. Certainly something that I will agree with. And thanks again, friends, for tuning into The Mind Behind.
Did you see that guy's picture? Get him back up. Where is he?
I will.
There it is.
Right there.
That's the badge on my arm in his picture. I like him already.
Bringing in excellent individuals on the screen and in the comments. Alex, great to see you, man. But I was going to ask, and you tied me in nicely there, man. Like, as far as it goes on the journalism end of things, like professional wrestling's obviously been huge worldwide for decades and decades. And especially when you look at the UK, there were a lot of great professional wrestlers throughout history. But like you mentioned, there wasn't like that standout journalist. We looked again at Meltzer, at After, at those sort of big names early. Do you think the growth in BritRes and stars starting to come out of there more consistently, again, not that there haven't been in the past, but do you think that's maybe added a little bit and that people start to notice how good the UK wrestling scene is? You find the journalists that are good at it and love it, and then you grow from there? Or where did you maybe find that the journalistic side started to grow, I guess?
Yeah, so I think it's twofold in what you just said there. The British wrestling scene growing, WWE getting more involved with the British scene as well. Now that kind of coincides with NXT UK, but also the deal with BT. That was their first real partner. They had Sky Sports before that, but BT was a partner where they were like, okay, we're actually going to like really put our efforts and attention into this, both ends. And that's made things much easier, I think. For me, in terms of a journalistic side of it, I've always felt like my interviews are the backbone of what I do. I like to get it from the horse's mouth. I'm going to ask them the questions. I'm a wrestling fan. The things I want to know. How was this done? Whose idea was this? How did this come about? Whatever. It basically, I'm just a mark with a microphone, right? I'm able to kind of go, what happened here? And I think that's kind of how it's caught on for me. And then obviously now I've been doing it 4 or 5 years, going to shows, interviews. I think my first ever interview with the Big Show was about 4.5 years ago. And it's just gone from strength to strength. And then obviously you meet people, right? You get to know PRs, or you go to events and you know people at, BT or Sky Sports, for an example. And, you travel to Royal Rumbles and WrestleManias, you meet more people, you interview wrestlers, you know how it is, you get to know them, man. Right? You build a rapport with them. I did an interview today with Steve Macklin, who obviously Steve Cutler, people will know him as, from WWE. But it was cool because like, we kind of we just knew each other, and we were just like, maybe we should just do an interview. Like, you know what I mean? It's
hey, do you want to do this like formally?
Yeah, it was like, maybe we should actually do this on record. So that's cool to get to that point. But obviously, it takes a lot of the same way wrestlers build equity. Journalists have to as well, and your track record will always be scrutinized. And Lord knows, in the landscape of Twitter, like that's really, your reputation is everything. And I think that's why I look at like a Sean Ross Sapp and I think, man, it's amazing the volume that he works at and the accuracy, right? To me, he is, fuck Fightful, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to say,
the
of course that's going to get in there, but we'll continue.
Yeah.
It's the compliment sandwich. Good. Fuck Fightful. Good.
Yeah. It was a footnote. There's an asterisk. But yeah, no. I think he's great, and obviously, Mike Johnson is, and Dave has built a ridiculous empire, all things told. Whether he's always accurate or not, he still has built something magnificent there. There's a ton of great guys out there, and obviously, I'm so proud to see someone like a Gary Cassidy. Man, his story is great. I know you've had him on here before, but the way his
so
career is
already get from him.
His career has already been defined by his morals, basically, and he'll always be golden in my book. And then you got someone like Louis, who's obviously, man, the kid's 20. Fuck,
it's insane.
At 20,
it's insane.
At 20,
in the nicest possible ways, Alex. Like the two things that have made me feel oldest in wrestling journalism are learning how to use Twitch and finding out Louis was 20.
Yeah, I mean, fuck. Like sometimes, like if he, like if I'm trying to guide him and he says something, he'll want to do something, or maybe it's just a question about how he should go about something with, I don't know, a PR or whoever. Mm-hmm. Like sometimes I have to really say to him, he is only 20. You know what I mean? Like at 20, I don't know shit. Like,
man.
And I think, well, that guy is light years ahead of what I was doing at that age. So amazing for him. Then you got like
I'm 29 and I don't know shit.
No, I like your interview style. I like it.
I try my best and have fun, but that guy, and again, it ain't anything against me. It's everything for him. Is you're right. He's wise beyond his years, to use the cliche for it.
Yeah, I feel like, the way I was talking about my style interviewing wise, I think that always attracts me. So there was a girl at Fightful called Molly Bell. Her writing style was it was really attractive to me. Like she is so like personable, man. Like it feels like she's talking to you in the same way when I watch your interviews. So you, and there's a guy called Matty Paddock. I don't know if you know him or not. He's a British guy who works in some of the papers. His interview style is very much, and yours too, is more like, his is very much in depth, like the person. And when I watch you and someone, it's like, I'm like, fuck, are these two good friends? You have a very affable style.
Dude, thank you. Like genuinely, that means a lot. Thank you.
I watch and see and critique a lot. So when I see something I like, man, I'm like, well, as you've seen, I'll let it be known.
It's appreciated as all heck, man. And I've got a couple of questions of my own for you, obviously, coming off that. But friends hopping in the comments, of course, there are a couple from Fightful that maybe we won't throw up because we're a PG-13 channel. But, of course, we got a couple in here, of course, from our own Canadian Goose as we're going to kick it off. Have you ever had any interest in becoming a performer yourself, whether reffing, announcing, commentating, donning the tights in the ring as Alex the something? McCarthy. I tried to think of a nickname on the spot. I did a bad job, but we'll go with the question. What would your gimmick be?
My gimmick? I'd be a journalist, right? And I'd come to ring up and I'd be like, this is bullshit, right? And then all the fans would be going, oh, boo, boo. And I'd be going, look, I've done my investigative stuff backstage. I go, this is fabricated. And the crowd would be desperate to see someone hand my ass. They would be desperate to see me get flattened. I'd be going, these guys are pussies. And they'd be going, boo, boo. And then wait, and then someone would beat the crap out of me. There you go. But to answer the question in a fuller way, before the pandemic, I was going to do some training with Eddie Dennis, who's with NXT UK.
Cool.
That was the idea. We were going to film some stuff. It was going to be a whole like training like a wrestler that I was going to do for talkSPORT. And the goal was to maybe have like one match, maybe in front of like, I don't know, who fuck knows, 2 people. I don't care. But just to, I do think that's cool to understand, right? Like what they go through and putting together a match and all that stuff. So that was a goal. And someone has mentioned to me about commentating before, but I don't know is the best way I can put that. I do want to do the training. I do want to.
Well, for what it's worth, Goose hopping in, solid Spence, book it. I'll work this, dude. At the very least, if you ever want to head out to Edmonton, Alberta, you've at least got a PO to help cover off the hotel expenses. Dan hopping in, and good to see you, friend. So you'd be an authority figure then. I'll let you answer that question, and then I'll let you comment on your thoughts on the rumors of Samoa Joe heading to the old black and yellow brand.
So I don't know if I'd be an authority figure. I'd be like a manager for someone. I'd be like, this one guy is legit. This one guy, I've brought him here.
Everybody's good. He's good.
You're paying to see this guy. I've brought him here. These other guys, they're phonies, like Family Guy-esque. Like, hey, phony. Like, that is how it would be. Yeah, exactly.
He's only playing one note.
Yeah. Man, love that show. But yeah,
we'll do this whole we'll have a separate mind behind on what's your favorite Family Guy meme. We'll go from there,
brother. We've got them. So I think in terms of Samoa Joe, good for him. Whatever he decides, right? Good for Samoa Joe. I have to imagine you can't imagine the communication lines between WWE and NXT are that diverse that they couldn't come together as it was being released. Surely Triple H could have gone, that's probably a bad idea at the time.
Hey, we believe we're doing this. Oh, maybe could we believe we're doing otherwise?
Yeah, I think it's maybe a case that, and again, this is pure speculation, that they didn't want to clear him. Samoa Joe was like, well, cool, then I'll go explore my options elsewhere. Maybe he's had some medical evaluations since then that have kind of said, don't know if it'd be a great idea for you, so what's the best option for him after that? Probably would be money-wise and freedom and happiness. Probably would be NXT. I know AEW would be a solid option, but you don't know what Samoa Joe's situation is. He might just want to be happy. All right.
Well, and let me tell you, Alex, if you think that we don't know what's going on the backstage end of things, then I can certainly speak for I not knowing anything on the backstage end of things.
When I spoke to him at the Royal Rumble 2020, right? The last time we could actually travel to a show, I spoke to him there. This is just before he got injured, like a month before. And he seems really happy. He'd kind of just turned babyface. He was really enjoying. He thought he had a lot of miles. I find it hard to believe that we won't see Samoa Joe wrestle again. But whether this, you know how it goes. This might be like a step for him, and it's just a nice way back in, a good paycheck. And if he can't wrestle, go get the biggest paycheck. That's what I say to him.
Oh, yeah. And selfishly as a fan, man, of course, you mentioned AEW and of course a great platform on that end. But there are one of two big platforms that you can really go to if you want international TV exposure. And selfishly as a fan, I want Samoa Joe on as many of those television screens as I can possibly get. Right now, I know that wasn't a story that you broke right off the bat, but man, I could go through a laundry list of stuff you have been the one to break. So has there maybe been a particular story that enjoyed is always a weird word for me to use in this situation, but we're fond of breaking first, I guess is the best way I can put it.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a few down the years, so breaking Millie McKenzie joining NXT UK was cool because she was someone who had kind of suffered during the speaking out movement. Many obviously did, but it was very cool to kind of be the one. And obviously I checked first, but to break the news and be like, it's amazing that she now feels comfortable to do this. And it's a great move for her. The company was so behind her. There was also a time when Charlotte Flair was, when Nia Jax wrote her off TV and everyone was like, Meltzer and everyone was like, she's going to be back for SummerSlam. And I was literally the only one going, she won't. And everyone was going, oh, she'll be back. They just keep writing her off. And I said, no, she won't be back till the end of the year. And I think I actually said end of the year Rumble season. I think 2 weeks to the end of the year she returned. So that was kind of nice to be like, I knew she was having surgery. I think it was July 27th. She was never going to make SummerSlam. So, some of them it's good to it's good to have those on your backboard, right? I got some right?
Well, and how hard is it to stick to your guns in situations like that? Because, man, again, as much as I'm willing to put you over for being a guy in the know, there are a lot of individuals, like we've talked about, you were talking about there, that I would at least hold as equitable to that end of things. So when you say Meltzer and sort of those big names, I guess, in journalism are saying, no, Alex, my opinion contradicts yours or my facts contradict yours. How hard is it to look at that and be like, no, I know what I know and I'm sticking by it, for lack of a better way.
On that Charlotte Flair one, the source had actually said to me she will 100% not be at SummerSlam. And they told me the date, the surgery, all of that stuff. And I was like, okay. And then, so I ran that. 100% won't be at SummerSlam. Oh my God. Like literally every day up to SummerSlam, I was like, oh my God, what if she comes back? Like, I look so stupid. Like, I was so worried that, like, I don't know, maybe the surgery would get cancelled, and that, like, I was like, oh no.
And then might as well put it off so I can work SummerSlam or literally any random situation that could come up. Yeah.
I was just like, oh, was it worth me being so like upfront? So you always worry, just because, like, you do it with good intentions. Like, not many people anyway want to just lie to try.
I was going to say, I think you and I both have 2 or 3 names that probably come to mind on that.
Yeah, 1000%. And but I feel like everyone knows that I've always, I don't break exclusive like the volume of Sean Ross Sapp at all. But when I do, generally, my hit rate is pretty damn good, and I think people have come to, appreciate that I'm not just going to put something out there with the hope that it'll stick. Like, if I say it, generally speaking, it will happen. And there's lots of stuff that I've known as well that I haven't said because I'm not that kind either. Like, I don't want to spoil things. I'll give you an example, and Sean Ross Sapp will be able to corroborate. I knew that Edge had got injured before everyone else did. Remember when he had backlash from Randy Orton? And I actually messaged Sean, and I was like, 2 people have reached out to me and said that Edge is injured, and I don't, I don't want to run that. I don't want to spoil it for people, but like, if you can corroborate it, and he did, and then he ran it, which is always fine. Like, he's someone I would trust to go and do the work to find out and corroborate. Because ultimately,
that's the journalistic side that is the biggest reason I've never said I'm a journalist in it. You know what I mean? Is like, you and Sean and guys like that do go the not even extra step, but like the extra 4, 5, 6 steps.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously, and I remember Gary Cassidy. I think he was the one that broke, like, that it wasn't going to be, or it was going back to Tampa last year, this year, WrestleMania, and stuff like that. So, like, there's a bunch of guys who you can just tell they have sources in different places, right? You can tell what their strong suits are. Like, generally speaking, if I'm going to tell you something about NXT UK, there's a good chance.
You're fine.
there's a good chance it's going to be on. Like Tom Colley, who I remember said, oh, NXT UK is closing. And like, straight away, I was like, no, it's not. And again, like, I'm not here to shoot shots or anything. But stuff like that, you have to kind of, you can't let that stuff.
You got to look at the facts of it.
Yeah, you can't let that stuff, like, marinate out there and gain steam or anything like that. So I reached out to who it needed to be reached out to. And that's the real work, right? That's where you do what you have to do. So, man, there's a lot of good people that are really great in different areas and connected in this game. Like, I feel like for all of the detractors and the frustrated people on Twitter sometimes, and as you mentioned earlier, there's a few names that have muddied it for everyone else. Generally speaking, this is probably the highest quality pool of people that the industry has maybe ever seen when you look at it collectively and the scale of it. So, man, there's a lot of people to be proud of, and I always encourage people to support others. And again, like, you thanked me earlier for the signal boost, which you shouldn't have to do, brother. But what I will say
is, don't have to. Always will. Well, brother, to throw an extra
brother. I have that shirt from the NC podcast.
Oh my God! Outstanding. Well done.
red and yellow, all kinds of shit. But I always feel like, you don't need to be like, they're your peers or whatever. You don't need to be threatened. I think we should lift each other up, recognize good work. If I had people opening doors for me once upon a time, my life would have been a hell of a lot easier. So I just feel like, why not? Appreciate good work.
Well, and it's usually a segment, man, that I leave for the end of the show because we'll always leave a show on a positive note. But I got a good feeling we'll leave this show on a positive note regardless. So if there are a couple of people, I know we've shouted out Gary and Sean and Louie, and far be it for me to tell you not to shout those guys out again because of the great work they do. But if there's anybody out there that is a positive influence or someone you feel is doing a great job or anything like that, I don't like calling it an elevator pitch. That sets a time limit. But feel free to put anybody over you would like, brother.
Yeah, well, again, and I know this is weird because I'm on your show, but you would be someone, if I was being asked this on another show, I would say you. I would say
thank you.
Ella J is out there grinding, doing good work for women, and Steph Chase is like AEW. Oh my God! If you love AEW, then you have to be on Steph Chase. Like we said earlier, Louie, Gary, Matty Paddock is out there doing great stuff. Like I said, the American guys, as much as Jeremy Lambert is a piece of crap, he's really, really good at his job. He may be the best aggregator going.
I can't even go through that full, like, honestly, Alex, I can't even sell that bit for you because I'm trying to sit here and be like, yeah, he definitely is. But I'm sorry. Terrible seller. Terrible seller.
There's a ton of people like, and if we're talking positive influences and that, Simon Miller at What Culture is, I love that guy. Love that guy to death. Tom Campbell at Cultaholic is just a lovely guy as well. These are all the kinds of people I would love to surround myself in wrestling. They are just positive. They're open-minded, right? Like you can have an objective talk with them. You're not screaming into the Twitter void. So
I don't like this isn't the end of both a conversation and a friendship.
I mean, you have to be able to kind of go, oh, okay, well, we disagree on that, and that's fine. It doesn't mean like that doesn't mean because you've said it, I'm like, well, fucking hate Spencer now. Like that's not the way it works.
What do you mean he wants to see Shaq in the Big Show?
Yeah, Goldberg for another title run. Well, get out. So I think that's it for me. Like I've always tried to make my corner of Twitter like a positive and friendly, kind of welcoming place. That's what I would like to say. Welcoming. You can say what you want to say if you're sincere in what you're saying and respectful. And generally speaking, that's what I get. So I'm very grateful for that. But yeah, man, in the Twitter game, like we said it there, that's podcasters, YouTubers, that's journalists. There are lots and lots of great people out there. And I feel like shit now because I know I'm going to have forgotten people that I appreciate. And I'm going to come off this and be like, why didn't I say that? But everyone at Wrestling Daily on my YouTube channel, I'll say this now, SP3 is like a sleeping giant, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
The True Heel Heat guy, if you haven't got to know his work or the True Heel Heat, like he's built like a whole family over there who have their own shows.
I've only been following for about a month, and let me tell you, man, there are, it sounds odd to say because I don't like the phrase, but like if there are rising favorite follows, I don't know how you put it, but that would be the best way I could put it.
They're across all wrestling, and they're not like combative with it. They're just very kind of, passionate and open. Yeah, I love it. SP3 is my guy. I love hosting with that man. So there are so many good people, and I'm grateful for it.
There's nothing quite like people who give a shit, man. And that is certainly something that, like, we talked at the start of this show about the boxes, the categories, the little, like, subcultures you can put people in. If I was going to put you in one, because there are many we can put you in, the give a shit box is certainly one that I would put you in, man. Now, I do have to ask, because it's not really wrestling, it's wrestling adjacent at best, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, especially at this point in history, and as my dog goes off and I try and vamp through him barking, what was it like to interview Floyd Mayweather?
Wow, yeah. You know what? Like, did you ever watch the Dave Chappelle show?
Yes, of course.
Right. Okay.
This is always the way the best stories start.
Yeah,
did you watch this incredibly raunchy early 2000 show? Yes, I did. Thank you.
The perfect avenue. But like, you know when he's talking about Rick James and he says there was like an orange aura around it. It was like that. I came into this because he was doing like this talk in Birmingham of all places. And that's where we had set up to interview him. He was doing like a night with Floyd Mayweather.
Okay.
And we had like the company that I worked for, we're gonna like Facebook Live it, but as part of the deal, I got to talk to him. So I went backstage and he had like, I'm not joking, I don't know, 20 women? No one needs that many women. He had like 20 women, and his entourage was
hyperbole, but not completely inaccurate.
Sure, yeah. And his entourage is like, and I mean massive in like numbers, but size as well. So like you walk back there and it's just like, oh shit, like I'm a little bit intimidated. And this is quite early in my career. I think it's about 2 years in. And then he comes just sauntering over, but like it's one of them where as soon as he's in the room, like everyone stops talking because like, oh shit, like he has that presence and
the hush falls over.
Yeah, but like if you didn't know who he was, he's a small guy, right? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like Andy Joshua or Tyson Fury. I've done them as well, and they are gargantuan men. But Mayweather, like when he talks and just everything about him, like he has this aura. That's the only way I can describe it. This atmosphere. But he was very nice to me. Strangely enough, he was very cool. He's just all about his business, really. Yeah, he was very nice. It's a good memory, that one.
It was even like the interview he did post-fight with Paul. He's like, I can't feed my kids on legacy. It's almost like it's one of those like moments of cognitive dissonance where you sit and say, that is something I just disagree with. And then you say, my God, that's the smartest thing I've ever
Yeah.
heard. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was absolutely incredible, man, as it was incredible to have you on today. And I know that you were sitting there and saying that maybe there are a few more people we can thank. God forbid I find even a small excuse to have you back on the show, man, because this has been an absolute blast. Like I said before we even started recording, like, there are a lot of content creators out there. There aren't a ton of great journalists out there, and you're certainly someone that I would put in, again, that box that we keep going back to, man. But it is appreciated as hell on my end. You took the time for me, and I know I speak for everybody in the comments, on Twitter, on everywhere else, that you take the time and spend it on professional wrestling journalism. Because let me tell you, friends, there aren't a lot of reliable sources out there. So if you want to follow the individual you see on screen, Alex, here is your point to plug the social media. And friends, these are social media platforms I would suggest you follow.
Yeah, indeed. It's Alex M _talksport. That's both Twitter and Instagram, but Twitter's where it really goes down. So you can find me there. And yeah, man, I mean, it would take me forever to plug what I do, but come to my radio show on talkSPORT. That's a great place where we have big guests every week. I'm very proud of that show. And I'm on YouTube as well with Wrestling Daily, man, and it's part of the Wrestle Talk family. So that's always a cool thing. And while I'm here, I have to shoot shots, Spenny. I want you to be a guest host with me on my Friday show down the road on YouTube.
Yes,
all right,
I can do that.
We'll work out a date. And I want you on my radio show, man. Let's get you on there. Like,
oh, yeah. I've always been told I've got a face for radio.
Mate. You're talking to me. I've got the wonkiest nose in history. I'll tell you what, man. Like, I don't know what you're doing Monday, but there's a little event called Hell in a Cell Sunday. Why don't we review that shit Monday? What about it?
I've heard that it is a fairly major event on the WWE schedule, one worth paying per view for. So hell yeah, man. Consider it done. I'll save plugging that until I get confirmation. Because let me tell you, friends, Alex has a lot of opportunities of great guests. I would be perfectly okay with being sidelined because he says, Spence, I've got a big name here, but let me tell you, I'll plug the shit out of me hopping on Monday, like I will plug the hell out of anything that Alex is doing, friends, because again, I know I'm going overtime on it, but it is always worth going overtime when you're talking about great individuals in professional wrestling like Alex McCarthy, and hopefully like the rest of my guests we've got on the show. I know they are. I know who they are. So I know they're great individuals in pro wrestling. Now, before we close it out, friends, of course, I want to make sure that we plug the opportunity to tune in to Love Wrestling on June 24th. Nicole Matthews, Randy Myers, and a guest to be confirmed / announced will be joining us on Quizplex. Come in, tune in, say hi, give some thoughts on professional wrestling trivia, and most importantly, help us raise some money for the Trevor Project. They're great individuals doing great things in suicide prevention and crisis intervention in LGBTQ2IA+ youth. If that's not something that gets your heart pumping or you emotionally invested in going and donating to something, I understand financials, but I don't understand why someone emotionally wouldn't be invested in stuff like that. So friends, if you've got the opportunity to support, that would be the place to do so here on Love Wrestling throughout the next month. However, if you guys are tuned in on Twitch, seconds from now, we're going to be rating our good friends at CFG Streams. You've read their articles here, and now you're going to view their videos there. If you're on Facebook and YouTube, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you support Alex because the stuff that he's doing with talkSPORT and everything in between is wonderful, not only for myself to get the opportunity to check out, but the entirety of the professional wrestling community. I would highly, highly suggest it. Last but not least, a huge thank to our sponsors at RK Athletics. Make sure if you're on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, I almost said YouTube again. Damn it, there's so many things to plug. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Make sure you give them a follow at RK Athletics 1. Once again, friends, for Alex, I'm Spencer Love. Thank you guys for tuning into The Mind Behind. We'll see you tomorrow with my guest, Anthony of the Smart to Death podcast. It's appreciated, friends. See you tomorrow.